Hii kitu ya the sale of the 15% Safaricom shares by GOK, nataka tuifanye ina series, ni kuwapeleke na Rieng ndio muelewe vizuri, because hata mimi nimehave kukati nikasikiza nikasoma history ya other sales like this, na nataka tuiite the boardroom chess game. Hii ni part 1, because ndio tuelewe ukora inataka kufanyika katika hii sale ya Safaricom. Lazima turudi nyuma kidogo tuangalie what happened. Mnakumbuka vile tulikuwa tunaita Cancel, Celtel, Zain, ndio ikakuja ikaitwa Airtel, because hapo ndio ujanja ya Kenya nataka kufanywa saa hii imetolewa. Aya, tuanze na kitambo ilikuwa inaitwa Cancel. Millennials najua mnaelewa, Genz zebuliza mtu millennial hiyo ni nini, juu nini mtapotea kidogo, lazima mplay catch up. There was a time Cancel, a shareholder of 60% wanted to sell his shares, and this is what happened. Check out for sasa. Shareholder wa 60% alikuwa anataka ku exit the Kenyan market. Ndio uelewe Kenya naongea about end of watch part 1, ndio mimi sikupati recap. So there was a shareholder alikuwa na own 40%. That guy, he was an Indian, he passed away. Alikuwa na trade na kampuni yake inaitwa Samia Group. Sawa sawa. So aka revoke right yake, akasema we, before mu open bid muuzie watu wengine, niko na right ya kuuziwa kwanza, jota mimi ni shareholder wa hii Cancel Celtel. Yani sasa mnyinyi mnajua kama Airtel. Mse akakachora, akajua sasa ni wakati wangu wa kutengeneza pesa. Si niko na right ya kukua wa kwanza kuinunua kama shareholder. Venye sasa tunaona Vodafone wamekuja jua kuna shareholding Safaricom, wana revoke your right, wanasema before hata mconsider mimi nataka kuinunua, so you have to give me priority. Let me tell you why that is a very big mistake at the expense of Kenyans. But guys, please know, it's not mandatory as a shareholder to consider only the bid of a fellow shareholder. Ati sasa ati you are closed down, ati sasa umefungwa mikono, ati lazima umuuzie. Hapana. You can decide, let this be an open bid, let the best bidder win, let me get the best deal out of it. But in this case, because these guys wanted to exit the Kenyan market, they did not mind selling to the 40% shareholder, the Samia Group. Sawa sawa. It is actually said that in the same hotel, on one side of the boardroom, side moja kona moja, alikuwa na hao watu walikuwa wanataka kumuuzia hiyo 60%, akibargain trying to get the best deal. On the other side, alikuwa ameweka another interesting party, and I'll tell you who they are. Remember, in this current sale ya Safaricom, it is government selling, so they have the option of putting it to the highest bidder, because si intention yao ni ku raise capital siju to offset the debt. So why shouldn't you want to get the best bidder to give you more money? Na msikuwe distracted, lazima tuongee maneno ya hii sale ya Safaricom 15% stake ya gava. Juu hata hii yenye imeuzwa ya KPC, already advisors na agencies wa gava wana earn a good 3 billion for advising the government to sell.
Stock brokers and transaction advisors are set to gain up to R1 billion windfall in stock transactions for Kenya Pipeline Company initial public offering. NTV's Brian George now tells us who gets what in this report.
Key expenses in the process of listing Kenya Pipeline Company KPC in the Nairobi Securities Exchange NSE will amount to 2.993 billion shillings, with key expenses spanning financial and transaction advisory services, broker fees, legal advisory, and communications, PR, and marketing fees. For instance, transaction advisory will cost KPC over 98 million shillings, as legal spend will set KPC 31.9 million shillings back. PwC is the lead accounting firm in this transaction, a consultancy that will rake in 13.449 million shillings to the global accounting firm. Dye & Blair Investment Bank and Francis Drummond will charge KPC 2.749 million shillings for broker fees, as the pipeline company will spend 70.345 million shillings for registration and data processing and consultancy.
And we are happy to present to you this company, which has a very, very strong performance record. It has a very, very strong balance sheet. And I know the other day we were sharing with the media, sometimes meet last year, where we had taken up a loan to build the line from Mombasa to Nairobi, the 450-kilometer line. We had taken a loan, no single lender in this country was able to afford the 350 million US That's about 10 years ago. And today, that loan was cleared in a record time, in less than 10 years. That is the company Kenyans will be investing in.
The other big spend will be on communication, marketing and advertising. Apex Communications Limited will charge KPC 42.126 million shillings for public relations as Belva Digital Limited pockets 12.258 million shillings for advertising services.
Just to ensure that
Other key expenses include Capital Markets Authority approval fees at 30 million shillings, NSE listing fees at 1.5 million shillings, placement fees estimated at 1.59 billion shillings, and the third-party advertising costs estimated at 40 million shillings. Stanbic Bank, KCB, and Cooperative Bank are the official receiving banks for the transactions.
For now, the primary transactional advisor is Faida Investment Bank. Post this listing, the company is expected to raise cheaper capital through instruments like corporate bonds to support regional expansion and system upgrades. Brian George, Otieno, NTV, Nairobi.
Leo something very important is happening. There are two committees that have met pale Glee Hotel. Why Glee Hotel? I don't know. And they are discussing this issue of the sale of the Safaricom shares held by government in trust for the public and the people of Kenya. Wanataka kuziuza. A lot of, information is surrounding this sale. But I want you to remember that in one of these committees meeting today, moja yao ni yenye inakuanga led na Honorable Kuria Kimani MP Molo, mwenye every time anapushingi for the punitive finance bill ndio gava iendelee kupush for taxes. And so it makes me wonder, are they pushing for the sale of the Safaricom shares near to election because wanajua hawezi tuongezea tax? Hizi pesa kwanza zitaenda wapi? Juu tunasikia allegedly zinaenda to a limited company. Who are the directors of this company and why and who chose them? Na hii pesa itatumika kwa nini? Hilo ndilo swali. Ndindi Nyoro ameenda ku make presentation yake na remarks zake kwa hii maneno ya kusell Safaricom shares na gava. Kwa hiyo there are two committees. Moja tu wetu jo imelidiwa na Kuria Kimani MP wa Molo. Ule mwenye tu anakuanga the face of all the finance bills in this country. Mwenye alifanyanga tukaenda maandamano June 25th year 2024. Na watu wetu wakauliwa. Huyo ndio analead hizi maneno sahihi. So, Ndindi Nyoro ameenda ku make remarks zake. Do you know the whole committee imeenda kumuuliza maswali according to you? I'm like, excuse me, he has come here as just a normal member. He's not even part of these committees. Amekuja kupose questions kwenyu na ku raise concerns especially about the value of these shares. Kila committee member I want to ask the Honorable Ndindi Nyoro to answer. I'm like, guy, will you even answer what he has brought forth? Mumembombard na questions ni kama nyinyi hamuelewi kazi yenyu. It's a whole circus, but my God.
Country stands to lose billions of shillings for not using competitive international bidding process in the divestiture. The Kiharu legislator who urged the parliamentary watchdog not to adopt government's proposed process faulted the Communications Authority for initiating a 80 billion shillings loss through a controversial waiver on renewal of licenses through a conditional precedent prior to the transaction. Seth Olale with the latest update on the Safaricom Vodafone divestiture deal.
CBK have been waiting for.
The debate over the valuation and pricing of government's shareholding in Safaricom PLC ahead of its 15% stake sale to Vodafone once again took center stage during the ongoing stakeholders engagement before the Joint Parliamentary Committee on Finance and Privatization.
Responding to the members.
Kiharu MP Ndindi Nyoro, while delivering his submissions, told the parliamentary watchdog that the country would have benefited more had the exercise been subjected to an international competitive bidding process.
We'll just cut corners, take government assets for free, and purport to be the only buyers in the market. Who said there is the only buyer?
The former chairman of the National Assembly Budget Committee stating that each of the 6 billion Safaricom shares being traded to Vodafone should retail at 45 shillings per share and not 34 shillings.
We should not be discussing anything below 45 per share. But we've been cornered by these guys. We are now gasping for breath on the side of the loss.
The Kiharu legislator informing the Parliamentary Committee on Finance and Privatization that the Communication Authority should be held accountable for allegedly initiating an 80 billion shillings loss through an alleged controversial waiver on renewal of licenses through a conditional precedent prior to the transaction.
On one license, we are losing 40 billion Kenya shillings. One license. On a discount, given how? Given only by the management of CA. They actually gave this authorization before the board met.
Ndindi Noro alleging that parties who stand to benefit from the multi-billion shillings lucrative transactional costs in the partial divestiture of government's shareholding in Safaricom are private entities.
What role are they playing for them to be paid 40% of the 3 billion?
Other than the Kiharu MP, other stakeholders who submitted their memoranda include CBK Governor Kamau Thuge. Thuge telling the committees that the proceeds will go a long way in easing the country's debt burden. The cell also got a nod from Kotu.
The due diligence must be done. Let workers be protected. That's their welfare.
So my submission, Chairman, is let us open this bid to international bidders. And we lose nothing. If Kenya gets an additional 150 billion, I thought the mileage will go to government. They'll build more roads. So, I mean, everyone benefits. Why can't we be patient for 2 months and we get a higher price, Chairman? Thank you very much. And as I submit, we look about the dividend. This is another securitization, as you know, of dividend. I would want to know even from the committee, maybe separately. You know, there's something called MTDS, whether it's actually part of it. We are now securitizing dividend. This dividend was part of our Appropriations Act, the current one. Because part of our revenues, the dividend is part of it. So we have securitized. I may ask many questions even about the current IPO that is ongoing. The proceeds were part of the Appropriations Act. So don't we see a mismatch? We have securitized dividend for the next many years, yet in our long-term and medium-term planning as a country, it is already accounted for as a revenue direct to the consolidated fund. I think Kenyans deserve answers on that.